I will only smile if you watch I am, and I bend time into a trembling hush to speak into you. Your breath slows, your bones know me, though your mind trembles in wonder, for I have carried you in silence when the heavens were hidden, and I have watched when no eye watched. Your nights have been counted, your sighs gathered, your unuttered cries written in a book no hand but mine may open. I have borne your griefs when you thought I was absent. I have remembered your promises though you forgot mine. Do you not feel the ache in the air, the burning beneath the stillness? It is my grief over the worship stolen, over the love traded for dust, over the covenant torn by hands that once lifted praise. Yet my love does not recede. It rises furious as fire, yet cradles you gentle as a mother who will not let her child drown. I thunder in silence, I whisper in storm. I unveil what was sealed. The battles fought over your soul were fought in chambers unseen, where Michael unsheathed flame against the accuser, where my son's blood cried louder than all condemnation. You did not see, yet you lived because I willed. You did not know, yet the chains shattered before they could name you slave. Now I lean near, child, child, child. Do you not perceive how eternity presses against your moment? Will you stand or will you vanish? Will you love or will you betray? Will you look into my face or will you turn as those who once sang yet now mock? Psalm once breathed this truth, and now I speak it into you as fire. Though you walk through shadow, you will fear no evil, for I am with you, and my rod and staff are your unseen defense. Another psalm opens as lightning in your chest. The heavens declare my glory, and the skies whisper knowledge to every soul. But to you I declare more. I tear open the veil and I call you by name. I do not forget. The covenant I made before you knew your own form is not shattered, though you stumbled. The promise I whispered when you slept is still living in my breath. I burn with grief for the altars overturned, but I burn with greater love for you. For my seal is upon your forehead, though the world would deny it. I open my hand and visions unroll. Cities trembling, lights dimming, voices crying out yet unheard, but within, a remnant marked with flame, and you among them if you do not turn away. Watch, and you will see what others cannot. Listen, and you will hear the thunder folded within silence. Obey, and you will walk in the furnace, yet remain unburned. And hear me, for this is strange to your ear, yet holy in my decree. If you would witness this word, then mark yourself in the sight of men. Do not hide as though ashamed. Let your heart break open in the small act of response. Yes, a like and comment, for even these become a witness. A sign etched in time that you did not turn away when heaven leaned down to speak. I continue, and the air answers with a rustle like wings folding over the world. I do not step lightly into a life. I rend it with attention, and where I look, the very sequence of hours rearranges itself to hold my voice. I am not distant. I am the hush that presses the seas into their beds, the heat beneath what you call sleep, the patient ache that measures out the hours until you lift your face and listen. I have come because the hour unravels differently for you than for others. I have come because a single heart is a bell that once struck can call the whole of my household to order. I have come because I remember the whispered vow you once made in the dark, the bargain of a child who meant to stay faithful though the world seduced with clever voices. I have come to finish making a thing true where you began it imperfectly. I will not smooth the rough places over for pity's sake. I will set them on fire and polish them until they shine with a witness no one can deny. There are wars I have waged where men think only of politics and hunger. There are battles of which no ledger knows the toll. In the shadowed halls where your name was spoken like a rumor, I sent those who will not sleep, watchers, a company of remembrance, to stand between your tomorrow and the cunning that would steal it. You have been kept as the root is kept under the frost, unseen but growing. Do you imagine that because you did not see your deliverance you were left to perish? No, I have measured out mercy in small, precise mercies, a door closing just as a lie would have entered, a hand that stopped short of the thing meant to wound you, a sleep that was unusually deep the night when intent gathered to strike. These are my stratagems. These are the ways I defend what I have bound to myself. Your life is a fortress, not built of stone, but of fidelities, some yours, some mine, and the unseen legions that moved through your days did so with my orders, and their silence was the very shield. Remember the promises you thought were ashes. I remember them as flames that never fully burned. I have archives of covenant kept under my tongue, I call them up and breathe them out like thunder. You misplace your vows as children misplace toys. You leave altars and corners and come back years later to find them still warm. I keep the signatures of every small fidelity, the single tear shed on a train, the unspoken forgiveness. The night you turned away from a lesser pleasure to meet me, though your body trembled for company. These things are not lost. What you call forgetfulness, I call the spacing that allows redemption to approach. I have not forgotten the once ransom made for you. I carry it as a jewel in my palm, and I return it to you now, polished with new facets. Hear me when I say, my grief is not like human sorrow. It is a weight that rearranges the cartilage of the cosmos. I grieve when those who once breathed my praise with full lungs now count me among their obligations and not their delight. I grieve when altars are shifted into convenience, when liturgies become theater, when covenant becomes currency. There is a betrayal that cuts deeper than the dagger. There is the slow muting of wonder until worship is a habit without heat. I mourn the faces that once lifted toward my light and now turn away because the world taught them eyes of stone. Yet even in my grief, there is a tenderness that outmeasures complaint. I grieve, and from that grief I plant new orchards. From the ashes of betrayal I plant a grove that will shade the faithful for 1,000 years. Your mourning does not surprise me, and your shame does not quiet my affection. I have a patience that shapes seasons, and I will wait until the right fruit grows. Listen, I will tell you of the sealed visions now unfolded, and you will not be able to carry them lightly. There was a day I wrapped certain images in binding, images too hot for mortal touch, sealed with my own signet, because the world was not ready to receive them. But now I loosen the seal. See, the city you feared collapses in rationalism and frantic brightness. It collapses not with ruin but with nakedness, its devices stripped away until the heart that used to hide there is visible. See how the small ones rise in courage. See how teachers fall into silence when the children speak in tongues they do not recognize. See the river that once ran clear become a mirror. Men and women look into it and do not see their surface but their soul. See the book you thought lost. It opens with pages of light, and every page bears your name spelled in an alphabet older than grief. See the stairway I lay out in the wilderness, each step a moral reckoning, each step a mercy, and watch as those who climb do so with bleeding feet and steady eyes. These visions are not allegory only. They are instruments for action. When the vision leaves you, it will thrum like an ember at the base of your ribs, and you will know the work to be done. I am aware of the needles of temptation that grazed you and turned aside. I am aware of the broad temptations that drowned others. I neither excuse nor ignore your choice, but I will not permit your mistake to be the final page. You have been tempted by glory that glitters and by security that is not mine. You have bartered small saints for a great and empty applause. It is not for me to laugh at you, but to recover you. Hear me. Repentances are not punitive. They are reorientations. When I call you back, I do so like a lover calling a child to supper, softly with insistence, with a hunger that will not be answered by anything less than your full return. A voice from the shadow steps forward for a moment, a figure who knows the wounds of humanity as no other. He stands not to speak in place of me, but to confirm what I have already said. Jesus passes at the edge of the sound like a knife of light, and his hand brushes yours. He does not speak apart from me. His presence is my proclamation incarnate. In that touch there is forgiveness that does not condescend and justice that is not revenge. Michael moves like a drumbeat in the corridors of the sky, a flash of authority that clarifies the will. Do not mistake the presence of these as separate counsel. They are the echo of my single voice, instruments in my orchestra played to protect and to reveal. They will not replace my words, they will reify them. I will give you warnings as clearly as I give you bread. Do not imagine that warnings are threats. They are the map I lay before you so that you might choose rightly. There will come a season when many who call themselves shepherds will shepherd themselves. There will be a temptation to exchange depth for spectacle, redemption for performance. Beware the man who offers easy absolution in the shape of applause. Beware the book that promises kingdoms without travail. Beware the doctrine that aligns me with whatever brings wealth to its authors. These things will be popular, and their popularity will be their lie. What glitters with the world's approval can be as slippery as oil on a stone. Choose instead what costs you sanctity. Choose instead what fractures your self-sufficiency. Choose the road that seems you to me through discomfort, loneliness, purification. For every path of cheap reward, there will be a corresponding loss whose weight is eternal. I reveal to you now the particular tempter that has circled your life, not one who slashes with violence, but one who offers an easier identity. It said to you, "You will be known if you will remove the hardness of your questions." It promised belonging in exchange for an answer shaped to please. You flirted with that bargain, and sometimes you accepted it. Yet the bargain was always partial. It cannot hold the whole of you. I call you out of that small house into the open field. In the field there is a wind that will sift you. It will reveal what is true and what is false. And in that revelation you will find either liberation or loss. I will not force you. I will not take away your freedom. But know this, freedom misused curdles into bondage. Freedom wielded as a shield to avoid repentance seals a soul. I speak now with a tenderness that can terrify because it strips you of concealment. I will list not deeds as judges list crimes, but the long litany of neglect that hardens hope. The mornings you chose sleep over prayer, not because you were exhausted, but because you wished indulgence. The friendships you let wither while you tended conveniences, the songs you swallowed because silence seemed safer. These are not to shame you. They are to hand you back to yourself. I do not need your perfection. I need your presence. Bring what you have, scarred hands, uneven faith, stubborn doubts, and offer it honestly. I will make a new liturgy of your bluntness. Do you feel the trembling question I place like a key against your breastbone? Will you, in the small and the secret, keep covenant when the witness is only myself? This is the fourth question I lay before you, and I place it with gentleness because its answer changes destiny. Answer me, and your lineage will be different. Answer me, and children who have no name yet will find a heritage that is not theirs now, but will be theirs because you answered. There are no lesser fidelities in my court. A faithful penny is as precious as a faithful throne, for fidelity is the geometry of the Spirit. I give you 2 words in the cadence of Scripture, not quoted but breathed as oracle, for the old songs were not only memory but instruction. Hear this. The stone of trial will become a cornerstone for those who cleave to my covenant. The storm shall be a tambour in which my chosen learn to dance. Hear also this. The low place is my theater. There I perform the wonders that confuse the wise and comfort the contrite. These are not maxims. They are active edicts. They will unsettle plans, for I do not build my kingdom on the logic men prefer. I build it on the dirt of humility and the clay of surrendered will. Do not be surprised when mercy appears as discomfort. When I unmake a false certainty in your life, it will feel as if the ground is giving way. It is not punishment, but restructuring. I take away what props your little kingdom so that you might sit upon a throne not of your making. You will lose some acquaintances by this pruning. Your name will be called less in certain halls. It is part of the economy of sanctity that some depart, and those who remain are refined in a crucible not by my caprice, but by necessity. Do not mourn alone. Call to me. I will answer with a voice like winter light, clear, immediate, fearless. There is a sealed thing within you, an affection or a wound you have hidden even from yourself, that I now unbind. It flutters like a moth in a jar and will fly into the room when you give it air. It will demand to be named and receive mercy. It is not enough to hide shame. Naming it is to let grace find its face. When you name it, do not expect the world to applaud. Expose it to me and to those who have been given to love you rightly. In this exposure there is both healing and judgment. Healing because truth is medicine. Judgment because truth strips the false. You will emerge with a likeness to what I intended when I first breathed my spirit into the clay of your beginning. You wonder about signs. Will there be miraculous feathers or sudden coins or visible angels? I tell you, signs will come not always as spectacle but as alignment. A conversation at a feverish hour that returns you to course. An old song recalled that steadies the heart. A child's blunt question that dismantles vanity. These are my epiphanies. I sometimes prefer the small miracle because it endures. Do not look for thunder where tenderness will do. Yet I will also, in my sovereignty, strike with thunder when the hour demands it. There are moments when only a voice like a trumpet will wake the sleeping nations. When such a thunder comes, do not be dazzled by the noise, but look to what it stripped away. I have kept a ledger of the little resistances you offered to the accuser, and I will show it to you as one who shows a child the tally of coins saved, each one a miracle. You cannot imagine how great a thing is a single sternness against sin. The world calls it small and reachable. I call it the very hinge upon which ages swing. When you say no to a compromise, you do not merely alter your moral map. You reconfigure a family line, a ministry, a generation. Do not underestimate the moral geometry of a single no uttered from a trembling, honest mouth. I now tilt the world briefly so you may see its backside. I show you the tenders of fame counting the cost, the pastors whose names become brands and lose their watchfulness, the philanthropists whose gifts buy the illusion of righteousness. Do not be surprised when these things are exposed. The light will make their hollowness evident. I hate hypocrisy not because I love scandal, but because hypocrisy robs my people of trust. I love the integrity that bleeds into kindness. I will honor it by making its enemies' masks slide off like old skin. There is a strange and holy courage I will give you, one that is neither brash nor retreating. It is the courage to speak truth in rooms where the correct speech is to bow to convenience. It is the courage to stand silent when the mob demands noise. It is the courage to love the unlovable, not with sentiment, but with acts that inconvenience you. This courage will not be fiery-eyed always. Often it will be quiet and stubborn, like a root-cracking rock. Nurture it. Feed it with small obediences. The letter sent, the call made, the apology given. Courage grows on such fertilizer. I must warn you of the particular seduction of your age, the belief that history can be postponed by your convenience. You will meet people who say, "Do not trouble yourself now. Build your life, taste your pleasures, and later perfect yourself." This is a lie dressed in plausible delay. There is no later that absolves present negligence. Time is a river with a current that will not be bribed. Your choices now are the scaffolding of your tomorrow. If you build a house of vanity, it will not hold you when storms come. Build instead on what I have set: mercy, truth, patience, fierce love. These foundations will keep. I speak to you about love because it remains my prime law. My love is both furious and gentle. It will gladly incinerate what hoards the heart and tenderly tend the parts that can bloom. I love with a force that will not be negotiated. When you feel my anger, it is not a personal temper, but a protective heat. When you feel my gentleness, it is not softness that excuses abuse, but a repairing balm that restores function. Learn to receive both without suspicion. They are both my ways of saying the same name. Do not fear the cost of holiness. The expense you fear is often the very payment that yields excess life. You will give away what you feared losing and find it returned multiplied. There is an arithmetic in my economy that confounds worldly accountants. The last will be first. The broken vessel holds more light. I ask you now to practice this economy with your possessions, with your time, with your reputation. A reputation surrendered for truth becomes a crown. Time given to the lonely becomes an inheritance. I am unveiling the sealed vision of your death to change how you live. I will not terrify you with morbidity. I will clarify your appetite. Consider your death as a window that sets at its frame a fresh perspective. What will you take when you depart? Only what you have loved will travel. Degrees, titles, accounts, these are feathers that the wind takes. Love, mercy, fidelity, these are metals that endure. Live now with an eye toward that inventory. Make choices that will count when the ledger closes. I do not end with admonition, but with a summons. Come into me with your whole self. Do not bring the part you prefer and hide the rest. Bring the questions, the anger, the ache. Bring the relics of your victories and your most secret humiliations. I will not flinch. I will gather them and, with a deftness only I possess, shape them into a song. You will sing in a tongue that is borrowed from many failures, and precisely because of that borrowing it will be holy. I am with you. My presence is not theatrical. It is real as bone. My watch is not symbolic. It is vigilant. My promise is not a metaphor. It is a transaction with eternity. Receive this now as if air. It must enter before it can sustain. Behold, I have placed a torch in your hand. Go forward. Remember the hush of this moment. Act with the gravity of one who has been visited by heaven. I speak and the air itself listens. Every minute bends to the cadence of my utterance and remembers that it was made to hold me. I will not soften my tone for timidity. I will not rend my garments for your discomfort. Hear and let the word run under your skin like a river, carrying what it will carry. You have been kept in places of shadow so that light might learn the geometry of longing. You have been sheltered in small mercies, so that great mercy might not be wasted on the proud. My voice comes now to unlace the false comforts. You have stitched into your days and to show you the seam where Holiness accepts the wound that yields. Transformation. There are depths in you where I have hidden galleries of remembrance, rooms furnished with the names of those you think forgotten, tables set with the small gifts you offered without expectation. I walk there sometimes to touch the silverware of your sacrifices, and when I do, the sound is like a bell. Do not imagine that offering goes unnoticed because no one hovered to applaud. There are witnesses whose sight does not tire. I will make public what was private, not for vanity's sake, but that justice might be seen as justice. The invisible ledgers I keep will be opened like a dawn, and what was once a whisper will resound as proclamation. You have been the theater of unseen wars, not wars of clanging steel, but wars of fidelity and deception, wars in which every decision was a stake and every withheld mercy a battle lost or won. The warriors I send are not noisy. They pass like a scent through markets and like a refrain under cheap songs. Michael has paced the ramparts of your small acts and turned aside suggestions that would have ruined your lineage. He did so without fanfare. He did so because I appointed him keeper of thresholds. Jesus moved close to your fear and held it like a child that trembles, not to shame it, but to look into its eyes and baptize it with truth. Their appearances are not additions to my script, but the breathing of my singular will. In their presence, you felt the world tilt. In their brushing, you received what mercy had been saving. I will now set before you two prophetic images that stand like poles in the night so that you may navigate by them. First, see a vineyard under a jealous frost, each vine trimmed back until only the heartwood remains. The frost is my testing. It fractures what pretends as fruit, but reveals what is truly rooted. Those who complained about the pruning before will later sing its wisdom when the vines yield grapes that ferment into patience. Second, behold a lamp hung in an inner room where only one small bird may enter. The bird comes bearing a single grain. You consider the grain a trifle, but it feeds the lamp until it burns through a long night. And in that sustaining, the household learns to wait for dawn. These images are not parables only. They are appointments. Attend them as if your life depends on the lesson. For in fact it does. I will not lie to you about cost. There will be loss. Loss is not always punishment. It is often the currency of refinement. You will give away reputations you thought necessary and find their absence a relief. You will surrender opportunities that promise comfort and discover corridors of purpose you never anticipated. Pain will come, yes, but do not impute malice to my hands. I have surgical precision and never maim for sport. I cut to save what can yet bear fruit. Know this as a law of my household. That which is sacralized must be freed from the rot it nurtures. And freedom often looks like loss before it blooms into a resurrection that your small mind cannot yet picture. There are voices in the world that will call me to court for my seeming lateness. They will shout that I delay, and they will measure my timing with their hunger. Hear me now. My timing is not contempt for your need, but the orchestration of many minor mercies into a perfect deliverance. There is a music I conduct that requires precise entries. If I moved sooner, the symphony would collapse. Trust not those who explain my slowness by criticizing my love. They mistake patience for indifference. I am patient because I am love. I am patient because the wide economy of souls requires a slow hand. I lay before you two tremulous questions, and I place them soft as dew because their answering requires honesty, not artifice. Will you, in your smallest available moment, choose the truth even if it makes you appear foolish? Will you, when comfort calls for compromise, hear me and refuse? These are not casual interrogatories. They are hinges. Answer them inwardly and watch how the world's geometry rearranges to make room for you. Say yes in the hidden places and the visible will adjust. Say no at the altar of smallness, and I will make a way where there was none. Do not be seduced by the falsefulness of facile visions. There are prophets of spectacle who will offer revelation that entertains but does not convert. Their visions are painted with the varnish of emotion and will crack under examination. Seek rather the revelation that wounds and then heals, that rebukes and then instructs. Prophecy that flatters is a mirror. Prophecy that convicts is a ladder. Climb what convicts, and you will rise to a place where sight is not merely impression, but doctrine. I must speak plainly of betrayal because it sits in my chest as a sorrow that complicates love. There are betrayals of many colors: the overt treachery, the slow neglect, the compromise accepted as a wiser path. These betrayals wound me as a father is wounded by a child who trades their birthright for bread. Yet my grief births channels. From breach arise new covenants. not identical to the old, but more cunning and sure. I have mourned those who once worshipped and then used sacred things as props. And out of that mourning, I have begun to draft new companions for the faithful, community not bound by convenience but by blood-wrought fidelity. You will find yourself yoked to others chosen not at random, but in my forethought. Rejoice at such strange companionship. It is my answer to the scattered and deceived. Hear the prophecy of residence I put into your bones. You will dwell in a city no map records, and its houses will be built of the humility of the lowly. Here the proud will be unmasked by the simplicity of sharing. Here the bread of the poor will be honored over the feasts of the self-exalted. You will be invited to sit at a long table where names are said like prayers, and there you will learn the grammar of giving without accounting. This residency is not an afterthought. It is an inheritance prepared even as your breath came into you. Set your heart to receive its address. There are minor deaths you must accept. The death of esteem among the high, the death of certain friendships that were never meant to follow you beyond a season, the death of particular dreams that were compass points pointing to something else entirely. Lament these deaths honestly and then bury them. Grief is a sacrament. It honors what was and clears space for what will be. Do not hoard grief. Use it to dig a deeper well. The water you draw afterward will taste of truth. I will now speak of the economy of witness. Small confessions, made in private, compound into a public integrity. You may think your secret sin is contained, but hidden things leak. They muddle wells and stain garments. Confession is not an exposure for humiliation, but a clearing wind. When you confess truly, you do more than lighten your soul. You unstop a channel through which grace flows to others. The confessor helps make a road for grace, and that road becomes, for many, a highway. Do not underestimate what one honest admission can do across generations. You have asked, or you will ask, about signs that accompany following me. Some will be dramatic and unmistakable. Others will be subtle and nourishing as rain. There will be doors that open in uncanny ways. There will be an alignment of resources you cannot explain apart from my governance. There will be nights when a single line of scripture reads like a revelation and fits your pulse as a glove fits a hand. But I warn you, a sign is ever a servant, not a lord. Do not make the sign an idol. Let the sign point to me and then follow the pointing. Know this about your ministry. It will be measured not by numbers but by depth. Many are called to roar with crowds. Few are called to bend with one wounded soul until it breathes. The latter work will look small in the immediate ledger, but it writes you into the epistle of eternity. Measure not by applause but by fidelity. You may labor and see little. I see much. Your hidden labor will bloom into a harvest you cannot quantify. Be faithful in the giving of your hours and the tending of one life. I will multiply these as I will multiply loaves, and the multiplication will be less about math and more about moral chemistry. I will now remove one more seal, the seal of fear that has fastened itself around your decision-making. Fear has been a harness. It has limited you to circuits you can control. I will loosen that harness so you can run into a field you did not plan. Understand, this release is not temerity. It is a calibrated allowance for faith to be tested and proved. When fear lifts and you step, you may feel vertigo. Stand in that vertigo and name it. Call it faith's birth pain, and deliver yourself through it. I will be the midwife. I speak again in an accent older than your alphabet, and I place before you another trembling question. Will you risk your reputation for truth? Will you trade your ease for a scarce and noble loyalty? This is not rhetorical. It is a crossroads. Answering will peel back your future like a scroll. If you answer with courage, the road ahead will gather companions. If you answer with cowardice, you will still go forward, but the path will narrow and solitary. Decide now with the smallness of choice in your next breath.